Welcome to Purpose Living Podcast. My name is Ponzi, and welcome to this new episode. We are getting into the new year, so by the time this wonderful, what's the word I'm looking for? I lost it.
It'll be 2024. It'll be
this wonderful, hot, saucy episode of Kids. It'll be 2024, so I want to wish you guys a happy new year. And you know, that's what we want to talk about: living with purpose in 2024, whatever that looks like for you. And this is a wonderful time for all of us to sit back and reflect. I know we're gonna have parties on New Year's Eve and all that, but I think for most people it will be a good time to just sit back and reflect and not dwell on 2023, no matter what has happened. Because to be honest with you, I don't know what happened in 2023. It just went, and it went by fast. And 2024 is here. Reflect. And great 3 questions that I asked people is, you know, what did you do better, right? And what are you going to try to do better in 2024? And then what is coming? Just trying to not give any chance to any negativity that's happened in the past. Like, I'm leaving whatever happened in the back, and I'm moving forward towards whatever God has in place for me to achieve, right? And embracing that, and just letting God take me wherever He wants to take me. So, where are you at?
Amen. No, I think that's good. And I mean, I feel like, you know, this is the perfect time of year to reflect, because we want to learn through what we go through. We don't want to just go and survive through things, but there's lessons, and there's so much that we can take from even our biggest like pain and suffering, but also the really great times. So I never want to dwell in the past or stay stuck in it, but I do want to learn through it. And then, okay, what do I want to let go of? What do I maybe need to surrender? And then what do I want to take with me? And then what is next that the Lord is calling us to, so that we always have our eyes forward and, you know, like listening to whatever the Lord, how He leads us, but yet not missing those valuable lessons of the pain and the struggle to, you know, or the good things to help propel us forward. And really, for me, this next year is just waking up each day being intentional with every minute, knowing that, you know, they're all a gift. Like, we sometimes, you know, can take things for granted and take the breath in our lungs for granted, and, you know, take waking up each day and forget that it's a gift. Like, this day is a gift. And then looking at our life, not just in 2024, but our entire life as like, how can I use this life with purpose? How can I honor God with the time that He has given me on this earth? And, you know, like having some intention and some excitement for that we get another day, and not just take everything for granted and kind of go through the motions and live in that survival mode.
Absolutely. Setting yourself to live the life that you want to live. That's how I see it. For the rest of my life. Not just 2020. So let's put it this way. 2024 is the year that you lay down the foundation, but then it's going to be something that happens for the rest of your life, as long as you're living on this earth. That's how I see it. And, you know, you're talking about you talk about the pains and the trials that everybody face. You know, all of us face different things. Some of us might be similar, but different situations. You know, all those things, being able to embrace those things and see those things, pick out what you learn in those challenges, right? In every single challenge that you face in 2023, like moving on, like what are the things that you learn in those moments, right? So that we're not just like you said, we're not just kind of living through life, but or just breathing through life, but actually living life the way God has created for us to live. But for me, you know, those are the things that I see, those challenges that I face now, or the challenges that they're behind us, as, okay, this has set me up for this, whatever this next thing is for me in our life. And I like the way you have this question on there.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's the key of all of it is, learning and growing up into what is God's very best for you. So the first step of that is like actually receiving his love. Because until we know that he is a good God who loves us, who cares for us, who has plans for us, who has a purpose for us, until we know that, and not like know, but like know deep in your heart, because there's a big difference. Like you can like, yeah, that sounds right. But like knowing, like, gosh, like he loves me. He cares for me. He would have died just for me. Like getting that and receiving his love, and then from that receiving his love, we receive his grace and the empowerment to fulfill the plans he has for us. Like it will not happen if we just strive and do it in our own strength and like go for it like in ourselves, because then what ultimately we often do is it's for our glory and what we want, and our pride can get in the way of actually fulfilling God's blessings and his plans for us. And so we receive in order to give from overflow, but never to point to us, to point to him, to point to his glory, what he has done, and then what he can do in us, he can also do that in others. And so it brings people hope of, you know what, like God is real and he is good and he does have plans. And, this next year can be that next season where I can fulfill God's plans for me. And what is that best for me? He wants us to be healthy. He wants us to have thriving, good relationships where, maybe there are some hard, challenging relationships in your life that you have to distance yourself from. And that doesn't make you a bad person. That just means that, you need to spend your majority of your time with the people that are going to help you to grow and become your very best. And really just leaning into that process of, okay, this, as a cliche as it might be, a new year, but this is a perfect time and a perfect season to say, you know what, I might surrender and I might let go of some things that I held on to because they were comfortable, because they were known, because it was just kind of what I've always done. But maybe they're not the things that I need to carry into this next year. And so taking some time to reflect and to write those things down of, okay, what is it the season that I need to let go of? And then actually letting go of it, because that's the hardest part. We can know, but then actually releasing it is a whole different thing. But then, okay, now where am I going? Like, how can I be intentional with my minutes in 2024? Like, what is that intentionality look like in my calendar, in my everyday life? Like, what am I doing to continue to grow and to mature and to live the life that God is calling me to?
Yeah, and you touch on something, like when it comes to like working your strength. Here's something for you to kind of ponder on. the human willpower can take you as far as the human can go. But God's grace is something that overflows.
Yep.
It does not stop. And I think it's really important when you said accepting and receiving God's grace. So what the heck does that mean, right? What the heck does that mean to accept and receiving God's grace? Like, listen, you're not going to be perfect. It's not going to be smooth sailing. Like, you ain't going to be happy every single day. Nothing is going to go like as you plan. But you have God beside you. Right? And that's the difference maker. Because our willpower goes up and down, just like how life goes. Right? But if you have a maker who's always steady, he does not waver in everything that he does. Like, he gets you. Like, he understands where you're trying to go to. He knows, he has the map for you, right? For you, is this guy, you got to embrace him. Like, don't beat yourself and be like, oh, I fell off the road. No. He knows the path that he's trying to get you. He's going to get you back on. Now, it is your responsibility to pick up your whatever you're working with and keep on moving forward, right? And keep working towards whatever that thing is for you. So that's something to remember. You know?
I want to share on that because I think that's a really important thing is he does have the plans and he has the path, but he has given us that free will that we have to decide if we want to go on it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not everything that happens was God ordained. It's not. Like, we get to choose.
Yep.
We have free will because he didn't create robots. He created people that would choose to love him. And again, we love him because he first loved us. So it's back to that receiving. And then once you know the love of God, then you naturally will love him back, and then you will love his people. I want to share like a little analogy is like, imagine that you have a cup, and a lot of times life or things of this world or suffering can kind of like tip our cup over. And so we're trying to give out, but we're having nothing receiving back in. So it's just kind of giving, and then eventually it runs dry. Some people's cup might be turned upside down where they're not receiving any of the love of or blessings of God because they're just turned where they're just stuck and just living in their own way. But when you actually flip that cup upright and just say, Lord, here I am, give me all the grace I need for the day. Help me to follow and fulfill the plans that you have for me today, this year, with my life. Like, receive it. And then his well never runs dry. He is the living water that lives forever, that always rains down. It's just as our cup ready to receive it.
Yeah. And I love that. I love the way you put that. And there's one more thing that we can tag on, keep stepping into the next point that we're going to talk about. But just think about it this way, right? We think about how when life happens, like the question that a lot of times we ask is either why me or why would I have to feel this way? And she said it, right? God gives us the free will to choose. Think about it. If you're going through something, he wants you to be able to experience what's happening, but he doesn't want you to stay there if it's not his will, right? So for me personally, for example, if something happens to me that if I'm trying to achieve something and something happens that might seem like a step back, it is not a step back. That is something that I need to experience so that I don't have to go back to do that again. Okay? The only time that we see it as a step back is when we start to look at things from our own eyes. But he wants us to see things through his eyes. And when we start to allow ourselves to see things through God's eyes, and listen, this has happened to me, and I'm grateful that has happened to me, and God has given me the ability to be able to say, okay, slow down. In this situation, how would God handle this situation? I'm not God, I don't even know. But how would God react in this certain situation? Then I don't hit the panic button. I'm like, oh, oops. The only time I hit the panic button is when Panji starts to think, oh crap, we gotta pay the mortgage today. We gotta pay this bill today. How am I gonna pay? No. There is a God who's in control. And it is up to you to choose how you get to look at it and from what perspective you look at it from. If you look at it from your own, like I said, your own willpower, it can only take you as far as your own understanding, as your own knowledge as a human being. But when you receive God's grace, His mercy, man, you start to see how His grace is something that is just overflowing. It just doesn't stop, right? And we as a family, like experience this month, past month, a couple months ago. We're like, oh, how are we gonna do? How is this gonna happen? How is this gonna happen? But God always. But that is because we stopped and said, okay, God, how do we handle this situation?
Amen. And it's true. Like, it's not like following God and like wanting to live His for His purpose and for His glory doesn't make things easy. It makes things possible, and you know He's with you. Like, there's just a difference when He's with you in the storm. And I look at Joseph and like all that he went through. Like, he was sold into slavery, was going to be killed by his brothers, like was in the jail cell for how long? Mm-hmm. Like, until God put him where his dream was, where he was second in command to Pharaoh. Like, he went through a whole lot of stuff we won't ever experience, hopefully. But he went through a whole lot to be entrusted with what God had for him. But Joseph's faith stayed there. Or Daniel, he knelt 3 times every day and prayed like he always did. It was who he was. His life was characterized by a steadiness that only comes from God. Yeah. And that's where, for us to continue to grow up into, okay, no matter what storms I'm facing, no matter what suffering that is happening, that we can be founded on the rock that doesn't shake. That our roots can go deep into where the Lord can take us and hold us and strengthen us beyond what we could ever do on our own. And so we share this to say, like, I don't know what you might be facing right now, but you do not have to walk it alone. You do not have to carry it by yourself. Receive. And it doesn't mean it's going to be easy, and it doesn't mean that it's going to be fun, but it does mean that you can carry a peace that surpasses understanding. Yeah. It does mean that you can find joy in midst of the pain. Like, that there's His presence changes everything.
And I love that you brought that up, the story of Joseph, which hits next to the next thing I would love us to talk about is be intentional with your minutes. Right? With our minutes, whatever, hours, days, just being intentional with it. And I remember probably a month ago, or some around that time, God hit me with this one. And it talks about, I was reading the story, and I'm like, you know what? Even though Joseph went through all the things that he went through, there's one thing that's consistent. He was ready every single time. Think about it. This is a guy who's locked up, but he still was ready for anything that was thrown his way, right? And it comes down to you being ready when and being ready at all times, really, right? And he was not just ready with anything that he was given, he did it with excellence. And he just kept on moving. I'm like, how do you go from being somebody who's locked up to being second in command of the whole place that you are locked up in? You know, but it's just through God's grace once again, and him choosing once again. He had that free will to say, you know what? Even when he got into power, he could have said, okay, screw it. Now I am in power. I can do whatever I want to do. Especially when his brothers came, he could have said, these are the people that sold me here. I could kill him right now, but he didn't. He was still being faithful to what God has given him. And that is something that came to my mind when I said, being intentional with our minutes. And that is, you know, you might be in a position that might not be favorable to you. It might not be where you want to be right now, but still I need to stop saying try. do what you can where you're at as you're doing it unto God. Don't look at the situation as, oh, I'm doing this person, this person. No. And I was listening to a podcast yesterday. It was not a podcast, it's a devotion by, what's his name? Charles Stanley. And he talked about, how people, when they go to work and they're like, well, I don't see how God is using this as a ministry. I'm like, no, that's because you are not living. When you go to work, you're not living. You're trying to fit into what the culture of work is. You're not actually ministering to people. You're not allowing God to use you in the manner that He wants you to be working in the place. So do you see your workplace as a ministry? Because a lot of times we think like, well, I need to do this at church. I need to do this. No. Wherever you are, whether it's a second, a minute, whatever you are, a day, an hour, whatever it is, wherever you are, do you see where you're standing as a place that you can impact somebody to see God's love, to share God's light?
Mm-hmm. And I want to share on that, because if you're not seeing that, it's because you haven't received first. Like, I want to really tune into that, because if you're carrying all the burdens and you're carrying everything on your own strength and you're trying and you're doing the best you can and you want to like love people and you want to follow what God has, and like with all your might you want to do that, but if you're not receiving, you're not going to be able to do it. Okay? So if you're trying to do it in your own strength, that might be what you need to let go of this year. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to do it in my own strength any longer. I'm going to humble myself. Yeah. I can't do it. You know what I can do on my own? Nothing. I can't even breathe if God didn't give me breath in my lungs. Like, knowing that, humbling myself, knowing there is nothing that I can do in my own strength, but saying, Lord, here I am, a vessel, an empty cup, ready to be filled by you. Mm-hmm. So that I can fulfill the plans that you have for me. Lord, help me to see people the way that you see them. Help me to love people the way that you love them. Give me the words to speak life into those people that you put in my path, and take me out of it. When you receive it, then you can give it. But if you try to give, that's where that cup is turned over. You want to do the right things. You want to do the good things. And you want to serve God and ministry and all of those things. But if you're doing it with your cup like this, you're doing it and you're feeling drained afterwards. If you're doing it like this, it gives you the energy and even more grace and even more love to just flow through you, and you don't even have to think about it. And that's what I want to kind of leave you with today, is like, God gives you all the grace you need for each and every day. I looked it up. There's 525,600 minutes in 1 year. What if you gave God all those minutes? What if you gave him your time where you're like, not where you have to have this like precious time where it's like this, all alone, but maybe you're driving in your car, or you're at work, or you're, doing laundry, or you're cooking dinner or whatever. And you're like, here I am, Lord, thank you for being here with me. Thank you for helping me love my kids the way you love them. Thank you for helping me love my husband the way you love him. Thank you for helping me do my job with excellence for your glory. Like, really receiving all the grace that we need. And when life happens in storms and trials, or those negative voices, or those like you're not good enough, blah, 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 all comes pounding at you, because it will. When that happens, you catch it as a lie and you say, you know what? I'm not partnering with that. Lord, I thank you for giving me the power to respond in the way that you would have me to. Not like, I'm going to defeat this, or I'm going to, because that's you carrying it and you doing it in your own strength again. It's actually letting it go and saying, all right, you know what? Here I am, Lord. Thank you for empowering me and not allowing what comes against me to destroy me, but make me stronger. And just receiving all the grace he has for us each and every minute.
Well, folks, this is Purpose Living Podcast. We're training to live God's way. And as we said earlier on, Happy New Year's. Looking forward to see all the women that are going to be going to the wonderful conference that is putting up together by all wonderful women. And like we always say, share, like, comment, and we would love to continue to do live with everybody and continue to add value to everybody in their life. So, wonderful topic for all of us to sit down to truly reflect on today. And you can go back and repeat and click and repeat and listen to this episode again. But if this helps you in any way, feel free to share it. Feel free to like we always share also, we have our own coaching program.
Yeah, I mean, if you are wanting to take it to that next level with purpose living, we have our membership where we, dive into different areas of life and live them intentionally, allow God to lead us and all of that. We also do one-on-one coaching and starting to group coaching as well as events. And so we're just excited. Really, the whole purpose of all of it is just to grow up into, who we're created to be, to grow into what God's best is for us so that we can live a life of intention, live a life of purpose, and we want nothing more than you to fulfill the plans that God has for you, because we just know how good He is and we want Him to be glory for it.
Boom!
All right. We're training to do Life God's Way 2024. Yeah.
All right. We'll see you guys next time we are back on with a new episode.
Bye.
Bye.